You know, you might have missed it with all the talk about Second Amendment stuff and who founded ISIS and all that garbage, but pardon me. But Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton announced their jobs plans this week, and here's part of what Hillary had to say.
Let's build a cleaner, more resilient power grid with enough renewable energy to power every home in our country as well. And we're going to invest $10 billion in what we're calling Make It in America partnerships to support American manufacturing and recommit to scientific research that can create entire new industries.
So the takeaway, she wants to create new green and high-tech jobs. Now contrast that with the Donald.
We will put our coal miners and our steel workers back to work. American steel, American steel will send new skyscrapers soaring all over our country. We will put new American metal into the spine of this nation.
So, Mark, steel, coal, and cars, that's the future?
Well, that's only, I actually had the pleasure or the misfortune of listening to the entire 34-minute CNBC interview in the run-up to this show. That's really only part of what he's saying, in fairness to him. I mean, the principal plank of his economic plan seems to be growth for small businesses, and his principal theory is that Obamacare, high taxes and overregulation are stifling growth and impeding.
We hear him on the trail every day talking about coal and talking about steel and talking about these industries, all the jobs that he says were lost to NAFTA. And by the way, if memory serves, we were driving foreign cars long before NAFTA came around.
Right, but I don't know why
take us to 1978.
I don't think the two things are mutually exclusive.
The heart of his program is neither the steel, S-T-E-L, or S-T-E, or the sort of this ideological stuff. The heart of his program is a massive high-end tax cut.
Well, and he's getting grilled on that, but you know,
well, it's not a matter of getting grilled; it doesn't work.
Well,
put aside ideology.
They asked him in the interview how much deficit it would create, and the estimates range anywhere from 2.5 trillion to $10 trillion in deficit, and he says that Clinton's plan would create an even bigger deficit.
But wait a minute.
I don't know.
Go ahead. Put aside the deficit.
Right.
Put aside the other cover.
Right.
It's a giveaway. It makes income inequality worse. It's good for the 1%ers. He himself, if his wealth figures can be believed, would save over the course of years $4 billion. Well, the average guy making a salary of $60,000, $70,000 a year gets almost nothing.
He says he's going to cut corporate taxes for middle class sole proprietors like me, and that in theory would grow the economy.
But at least it's a good news, bad news scenario. At least Trump he's going back for Americans to the day of what our jobs, and I don't see it as a bad thing. In terms of the automobile industry, manufacturing job, warehouse jobs and so on. I don't see anything bad with that. I think Americans wish for the days that those types of jobs were there.
Okay.
However, here's the problem. That commercial that Hillary Clinton has with David Letterman when Trump appears on Letterman's show is devastating because he's talking a good game about bringing back American jobs, and then he's on Letterman, right? Yeah. And every one of his products that's being made is being made by some other country.
The answer to that is built in, right? I was in the private sector then, and I was going to take advantage of every loophole, and now I'm working for you.
But there's a reason why he outsourced his clothing line, because it's less expensive to make overseas. The same way that foreign steel is less expensive to use.
Mr. Whitman, but
exploit overseas low-wage labor, and then come back to America and then complain why. It's over, Dominic.
That's too.
It's over.
Well, you just got back from where, Montana?
Yeah.
But it's actually
it's pretty good.
It's actually a wider point than just the economic policies that they're pushing, because to me that's also symbolic or emblematic of the campaigns that they're running and who they're trying to reach. Well, Trump is trying to reach disaffected white working class voters whose jobs have left because, frankly, their labor is too expensive, and those jobs are never coming back. Whereas Clinton is looking towards a younger, more forward-looking demographic.
Absolutely wrong.
You think that's absolutely wrong?
I think Clinton is looking to create an economic. But you may criticize it. That my point isn't to praise it. Well, that wouldn't be news either. But she's looking to create an economic model that's consistent with economic realities, and that does not increase income inequality. Now, you can criticize her sincerity, you can criticize her ideas, but that's the goal. The Trump economic policy doesn't have a goal. It's a pastiche of failed right-wing supply-side economics and a little bit of a nod towards trade agreements.
There's two ways to get elected in this country. One is scare people and say we can bring you back to a happier time. And the second way to get elected is to make promises about what's to come and a golden future. And I guess that's the point that I'm making. Hillary is looking towards the golden future. He's trying to scare people into voting.
Substantial people who've endorsed his economic platform. I know Icahn is not exactly the most objective person, but he came out very strongly in favor of what Trump said on Monday. Larry Kudlow did, Steve Forbes did. On the economy, in your gut, you know, you've got to trust, putting all the niceties aside, you've got to trust a guy who's been there and done that and had success.
But he hasn't been there.
But
and he
but
hasn't done it.
But he has.
And he hasn't had success.
He's
He's a real estate mogul who pays no taxes.
And
Listen,
can't you
but
count-
he's had success.
And can't
I mean,
you counter
it
those
just-
experts with Bloomberg and well, there's more than Bloomberg. Give me another name that's back in Hillary.
What, dueling billionaires, who likes and which of the billionaire class likes and dislikes Trump, is not a political or substantive program for success. The fact of the matter is that
I don't think either of them have a substantive program for true economic success. Trump's strength should be, and most people say is, his views on the economy. If he could stick to talking about that as opposed to the inflammatory, overheated rhetoric, he'd probably score points against her, because there was this whole Washington Post expose of what she did economically for New York as a state senator that was devastating, a devastating critique of her. And that's a pro-Democrat paper. So that's where he should be focusing his efforts. He said he's going to do that and keep the shenanigans up at the same time. We'll see what happens.
Dominic, do you think voters really pay attention to issues like this? Do voters think that elected officials can actually get... Yes, I am. Can actually get an agenda through?
I think that that voters, to a large degree, hear what they want to hear, and it's based in large part on perception. Whether or not, I really believe this, whether or not the candidate is the type of person they'd like to have a beer with. But I think that the problem for Hillary Clinton is the credibility issue. The problem for Donald Trump is people think he's absolutely nuts.
So it's a personality election.
And if he is absolutely nuts, Hillary Clinton is the next president
Dominic
of the United
is the
States.
smartest man I know who has abandoned any hope of inserting intellectual thought into political process.
No.
Well, that's damning
And see,
with faint
no.
praise.
And see,
There's
here's where
no
we're going.
praise involved in it
Here's where
at
we're
all.
going to get into it. The man is a genius, but what you're hearing is I've been covering politics for 30 years. And politicians say one thing and do another,
here we go.
and that's reflective in the fact
I had to
that half
poke
the
him,
country
but it
doesn't
came
vote.
out again.
Just because
The
he
fact
called
of the
you
matter
a
is-
genius
The
doesn't mean you
fact
have
of the
to...
matter is,
He is a genius.
ideas,
Just ask him.
Ideas matter. Ideas matter. And in the end, the American people choose leaders.
You think that's the number one issue in selecting the president for Americans? You really believe that?
I think it's a blend of people's appreciation of the character and temperament of the candidate with the direction and the ideas they have for the country.
These people in West Virginia who are trained to mine coal, who've done this for their entire lives, they're not suddenly going to become white-collar workers who are going to be doing service industries or sitting behind computers and punching keys. They need work. They have to work. It's not going back to the 1950s to talk about reviving manufacturing. It's essential to do that and to continue to build a service economy.
That's a fair point, Mark, but if they're out of work as coal miners, they're not going to get a job as a coal miner.
Well, she's not going, she's basically defecated all over them in West Virginia.
Wait a
and
minute.
she's
Are
not
you
going-
for coal energy in the United States?
Clean coal energy.
There's no
yeah.
such thing.
Clean coal
There's
energy.
no
Look,
such
they have
thing.
they have to work. She's an anti-fracking candidate. You have to develop an energy independent policy, and you have to put blue-collar people to work in the fields in which they can work and are trained to work.
Bring back
All right,
coal. That's the Republican
In
platform?
part.
Whoa.
I'm not part of the Republican platform, but they have to work in the industries that they're skilled and able to work in.
Gonna
They're
leave
not
it-
suddenly going to be turned into white-collar workers.
Going to leave it there for this segment. You know, on the panel tonight, we have two attorneys and a Dominic, so we're going to have some legal stories next, including Democrats trying to force a vote on President Obama's Supreme Court nominee. Stay with us.